Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Why is everyone so incurious? Does it ever trouble you how much regular people give basically zero thought to the larger questions of life? How little do they contemplate the purpose of the world and their place in it? We all have this incredible capacity for creative expression. We have these amazing bodies that could take us on epic adventures. Instead, it seems like all anybody focuses on is making fake money numbers go up and eating. I'm not trying to say everyone except me is an NPC. I don't believe that. But it's like 90% of the population looks at the world and says, yeah, whatever. It's as if they decided to just turn off the part of their brain that wants something more.
Yeah, but I think I'm just used to normal people being that way that I haven't even thought about it in a long time. Because I've always questioned that stuff since I was a kid. And it frustrated me a lot that nobody else did. So now I just kind of expect that the average person makes no sense to me. I wonder why that is though. Just NPCs?
I have this memory from 4th grade of wanting to read Dracula and my teacher at the time making this huge stink about it with my parents, like I was doing something wrong and in turn they were doing something wrong allowing it. I think she thought she was protecting me from something unsavory. My whole grade school education was little experiences like that, being told what was acceptable to learn and what wasn't. What's my point? I don't really know. Just that I learned early on that school was never going to give me the books I wanted to read. The curriculum wasn't going to teach the things I wanted to know. Now I'm an adult and seeing the impact of that on my peers. I see women desperate to marry, not for love, but just because their biological clock is ticking and they're running out of time to be a viable breeder. People stop searching for a purpose and instead just search for a paycheck. All the men stay indoors and play video games all goddamn day.
I dunno, Anon. I'm with you on all of that except this one point here. I actually think people are addicted to the internet and video games because something inside them knows it's closer to how true reality is supposed to be. Because in a sense you're in control of your own little reality, your computer, and you get to choose how to interact with others. For the most part, anything that gets shared online belongs to everyone. Information is free. Despite all the dipshits trying to change that. Online games are all rendered on your own machine, but you allow a space for your machine to have the illusion of being controlled by others so that you can interact with them in a virtual world. I think that's what reality actually is. But dark realities like this one are what you get when that space grows too large, and you forget that you're supposed to ultimately be in control. The internet is like a small emulation of higher reality dynamics within our own. And it just occurred to me, social media is like a perfect example of how dark realities form. Everyone on social media is totally free to ignore everything, but they get too caught up in it. They forget it's just words on a screen, and have no meaning they don't assign to it. They become bound to it in a sense. It starts to feel real to them. That's what happened to souls in this world we live in. And it became dark, when the illusion seems more real than what's actually real.
Maybe. I shouldn't be too harsh on the video people. I am one. On some level, I think we all believe those worlds serve as a substitute for a reality you probably should be living, whatever it is. But either we're too afraid to live it ourselves, or we can never find the space to live it in. So instead we just do. Whatever it is we're doing. But really, is this all anyone thinks the world is? There's no Trojan War for us to fight in. No Hydra to slay. No major secrets to learn. I refuse to believe the point of our lives was just to plink away at various blue-collar and white-collar jobs paying bills until we die.
Well, like I said, there's higher reality. And I think it's insanely more interesting than anything we're even capable of imagining. People dive into video games because of exactly what you just said. They want to, even for a short while, experience something other than the idiotic grind of this reality. Even if they grind in a video game, at least they get to choose to do it, instead of being forced to play a pointless game they've already outgrown, which is what daily life does. That's why I'm so confident this reality is a cage of some kind. Because it literally is. Every day you can feel the shackles constraining your soul from doing anything even remotely fulfilling. And not just constraining, but then forcing it against your will to do things all day long that you find pointless so you can't even dream of anything better. It's absolutely a slave reality, and a very horrific one. The horror cannot be fully appreciated until one has some degree of awareness of their own soul. But we'll get out. There's a reason it all has to be hidden. And if you're feeling the pain of it, then your soul has already begun to see the truth, and then awakening cannot be stopped.
The men staying indoors and playing video games all day are smart. They are taking money away from the system, away from the old retired boomers who voted our economy into the dumpster, then blamed young men who never voted. It actually pisses off politicians so much that they started to tax video game purchases in my state. It's the normies who go out and work a 9 to 5 every day that are keeping the system propped up. We need to just let it all collapse. People will suddenly be a lot more bright and curious when they stop getting food stamps, alimony, child support, Section 8 housing, welfare, Social Security, unemployment, etc.
If you spend any time around average Americans, you find that they are chronically, impossibly distracted. To the point that any time you suggest genuinely original thoughts or ideas to them, especially about their own problems or to things they bring up in conversation, read Distraction Babble. They are incredibly impressed and immediately drawn to you. You don't even have to be smart or intelligent yourself particularly, just have the most basic common sense and detached perspective, enough to see things as they are, and people will act amazed at you and your ideas. Because they are amazed, such clairvoyance is totally alien to them and they're too distracted to even consider that the distraction itself is a distraction, or is a problem to them. Watch any average person who fits this criteria for any length of time and wait how many seconds it takes for a restless, mindless tick to take place. Especially yawning. I don't know what it is, but dumb, stupid brainless people just love pretending to yawn all the time. They're so stupid and restless that they have to fill every waking second with their own personally created distractions for their own brain because they can't handle those interludes of silence where the cognitive dissonance becomes faintly audible. Smartphones are the most ingenious political tool ever invented and will probably go on to define the next century of human history and cultural development. Strictly in regards to the profane, of course.
How does free will work? Based on my understanding, it is a balance between the will of your higher consciousness and the programming your mind has received within the physical world. If the programming is too strong, your higher self has much less influence over your actions. This is evident by the fact that most behavior is habitual, and that decisions are most often only considered after they have already been made. Increasing the quality of your free will therefore requires a stronger connection to the higher self, which can be achieved through mindfulness practice, yoga, and just being present in the moment. Am I on the right track?
Well, science friends will claim there's no free will because while you can choose what to do, you can't control your desire for certain things. They will go so far as to say even going against what you want is based in another want, to overcome your desire, but that you can't control that, and so on and so forth. It's all very circular. The way that I personally see it, there's a greater hand and a greater scheme behind everything. There are many paths that are laid out from the moment you are conceived. This web of choices is like a web of fate, so to speak. You can follow the easy choices, the programming of the physical world, as you call it. But this will lead to a mediocre fate, an inconsequential one that is meaningless, and so the life you live will become meaningless. Meanwhile, everyone is born with a chance to be great at something. It could be anything from music to cooking to mathematics to law, etc. Everyone is born with the potential to be truly great at something. Usually, the greater hands behind fate will drop clues. If you pay attention, moments in your life will reveal to you that which you were meant to be. But whether or not you heed those clues and follow that path, it has to be chosen. They do not force it upon anyone. A person can have multiple great fates as well, or they might only have one. Now, this would beg the question of whether or not following these fates is actually free will, especially if it's laid out before you're even born. I would say there is really only one choice you have to make, the choice to live or the choice to exist. To take the easy programmed route, like being a wage slave until you die, retiring, partaking in frivolities of the mortal realm, these are just existing. It's just something people do here. But to truly live is to find something more than just existing, something that is greater than life. Many civilizations have come to this conclusion time and time again. The proof is there if you simply look and acknowledge the instinctual wisdom prevalent through the world. I believe it mostly comes to us in the form of art, things like music or painting or poetry and the like. They are things not necessarily needed for existence. They don't sustain you in the way like eating or drinking does, but they fulfill you in ways that those never could. You can even make art out of the things that sustain your existence, for example, cooking. You can take the simple ingredients and turn them into art themselves, whether via plating in the literal sense or in the form of tastes that could never be achieved without cooking. It's like the concept of kung fu in China. Anyone can have kung fu. It is the mastery of one's craft, the elevation of labor into artistry. The choice we must make is whether to pursue these ephemeral desires or to remain ignorant of anything greater than the mortal realm and to instead merely exist. Everyone with a soul has the desire to be something great. You hear it all the time. I wish I could be a musician. And yet the fact is that they can, but they fear it because it leads to a harder life, one of struggle and uncertainty. Meanwhile, being a cashier at Walmart is easy and gives you financial security and the such. Free will is the choice to strive for greatness or to simply exist in a meaningless existence. The choice is enlightenment or nihilism. Ironically, once you know this, the correct choice is clear, but you can still choose the wrong one. Choose to live instead of exist.
I agree with this. The problem I am trying to solve here is how exactly does one make the choice between living and existing? What separates those who chose to live and those who merely exist? This is what I meant by programming. It seems like people that are resistant towards living are allowing their negative programming to take control. I'm not good enough. It's too hard. I won't work out anyways. People that have had upbringing with lots of negativity and ended up with low confidence have very strong destructive programming and so are much more likely to merely exist. This is why I believe that undoing that programming and letting go of limiting beliefs is the most valuable thing you can do outside working on the actual goal.
I believe it is absolutely impossible for a normal human like you and me to reprogram the limiting beliefs out of our consciousness. If you concentrate on that, you quite honestly put attention on the negative programming and empower it at the same time, which is kind of ironic. You should simply acknowledge it in real time and absorb the attention you spread out when the thought patterns kick in. Being observant is key here, which is why meditation is so helpful. Maybe you will also recognize that giving our attention, energy, is not always a result of your inner action, but a result of the intention from others. My 2 cents.
Ask yourself, do you feel like you're wasting your life? Do you have a tangible goal that isn't vague? I personally sometimes feel that I'm wasting my life, but overall I made the decision to pursue music because it gave me a reason to live, a purpose in life. In the process, I lost any family I had and gave up everything from a job to a place to live. And while it's been hard, I've made it work. Before I chose this, I knew my life was pointless. It's why I was at the end. I'd reached such a level of nihilism I didn't want to live. Secondly, I have a goal, to usher in a second renaissance and revitalize the arts. And in doing so, revitalize human consciousness, returning the world to a spiritually based one. I've chosen this, even if it was a path laid out, it was offered. I could have turned away for an easy life, but I want this more than a peaceful existence.
That's really inspiring and I can't help but envy you. I myself do not have a tangible goal that isn't vague. In fact, I left a job that was pretty good 5 years ago without really a goal in mind other than just wanting to get away from the negativity. I did the dumbest shit ever and didn't have anything lined up. I ended up doing freelance and made less money but had way more free time. I spent most of it getting high and playing games. It's really shameful and embarrassing. Now I'm off weed and alcohol completely, but my life is in shambles and I don't even have a consistent creative outlet. So I wonder, was it my free will that let me down so much? Or was it the fact that I was too heavily controlled by negative thoughts and emotions which prevented me from letting the free will of my higher self to have more influence? I think the drugs and alcohol really screwed me over.
Well, you know that there's more to life than existing. So that's a step ahead of the vast majority of other people who aren't even aware there's a step in the first place. Second, the fact that you feel guilt over wasting time is also a good sign. You just need to take action. I've had moments of doubt and depression. Hell, I was left in shambles after a girl broke my heart. But I think it was just that I always had something to drive me, kept me going, knowing that if I had no one beside me, I still had music, and it's what keeps me going. I believe I'll achieve all I want to and more. I just need to keep going. If I may make a recommendation, I'd say reflect on your past. Look for clues as to what passions may have been overlooked. My father always placed an extreme importance on work, and so for most of my childhood my creativity was stifled, because he viewed such things as frivolous and stupid. It wasn't until I was an adult that it all just clicked and I knew what I wanted to do. On the games thing, I find a lot of people who enjoy games are usually good at making art for games, whether it's music, concept art, writing stories, and the such. Not to sound ridiculous, but when I first started playing music, I started with Zelda music. I still play it for fun, but I can also play Bach and anything else if I practice enough.
Thanks. I am actually learning music myself right now. Not sure if it will be my main thing, but I know I have a natural talent at it and always wanted to make music. I am currently learning piano and at the beginning stages. It's pretty daunting because I know I have so much left to learn. Do you think 1 hour of practice and learning a day is sufficient to start?
When I started, I was in the Navy and had a lot of downtime. I sunk 3 to 4 hours a day at least. It should be something you don't get tired of. I can play 8+ hours in a row, but it messes my shoulder up, so I don't do it regularly. The more time per session, the better. 4 hours in a row is better than 4 sessions of 1 hour, and that's for most things. Take 5 to 10 minutes breaks every hour, but if you stop completely, you have to warm up again, and stuff just sinks in better the longer you do it. I'd say 1 hour a day sounds like you're just messing around, no offense. It should practically be a part-time job, except you enjoy and love it, so it's not work.
Yeah, well, I am messing around at the moment. It's going to be more of a hobby than a profession, at least in this stage of my life. I am very impressed that you can dedicate so much time working on this. I have difficulty staying focused on one thing for multiple hours, even if it's a cheap pleasure like playing games or watching movies. People like you always appeared like superhumans to me.
One day you'll find something that fulfills you, and you'll understand. I believe in you, Anon. Good luck out there, and never stop striving.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.